Hey guys, Stuart Charles here, HomeStudioBasics.com, helping you make sound decisions. So, today we're going to talk about the HIFIMAN TWS 600, or 100 if you're white. How's it build? First of all, it comes in a really nice, elongated type of eggshell casing. Feels pretty sturdy and rugged. I mean, for as light as the earbuds are, even when they're not inside of the case feels really good. It has a magnetized enclosure, so when you have these on the go, the earbuds are never going to pop out, so that's good. It also has, on the bottom, it has a rubberized kind of foot embedded in there, so when you have it sitting on your desk or whatever, it doesn't move around, and there's no damage done to the case, so that's pretty neat as well. To open it, it was kind of a bit cumbersome at first, but it gets easier after a while. There's a couple of arrows pointing. There's one arrow pointing up and one arrow pointing down. So you just basically put your thumb where that tab is, where the arrow pointing up is, and then just pull up. Have your other hand at the bottom for support, and if you do it that way, it's fairly simple. Sometimes if you're in a rush or something, it's a little bit hard to open, but I guess maybe the tab could have protruded out a little bit more, but I'm really nitpicking. As far as the earbuds themselves, they come in at around 6 grams each, so very lightweight. They don't feel cheap, I don't say, but they're a little bit on the plasticky side, I guess. Putting the buds inside of the case for charging is relatively simple, but at first it's gonna be kind of weird. Like, you put them in and just give it a little tappy. Just give it a little tap. Little taparoo. And you'll see the lights come on. Now when they're red, it means it's still charging. And when they turn blue, it means it's fully charged. So basically I've never had an issue with these. They're rated for 5.5 hours. The case itself is rated for 33 hours, which is cool. Comes with a USB Type-C cable for charging. As far as running out of charge, I've never had that issue. I've never worn them for more than an hour or so at one time. Been mostly using these at the gym. As long as you put them back in the case after you're done, you should really never run out of a charge. Since I've had them, HIFIMAN sent these to me, so shout out to Mark over at HIFIMAN. Thanks a lot for sending me this. Since I've gotten them, haven't had to charge them but one time, and even then it was at 50% battery life. So it gives you a good idea of how long these things will last without having to charge them. When you open it, you'll see like a battery icon. There's 4 lights, so 25, 50, 75, and 100%. Now mine only got down to 50%, and I didn't really technically have to charge the box or the shell, but I did anyway, because we like to live life on the edge.
But only in moderation.
So yeah, build overall very good. It comes with the USB Type-C charging cable, the eggshell case, the buds, and 9 sets of ear tips. As far as the tips are concerned, most of them are pretty good. There's 2 pairs that are way too big for the case, so you're not going to be able to actually charge them while the tips are on. So you have to take those tips off, if you even use them at all, and put on another set of tips, or just charge them without any tips on them. But point being, those bigger tips are essentially useless for me. I mean, if you have bigger Dumbo size ears, they might come in handy for you, but overall those are not very good at all, and I don't know why they really included them. They're just kind of, I don't know, they're just too big, and of course they don't fit inside the case. Now there's also one other set of tips that are really affect the sound in a negative way. I would definitely advise staying away from them. You'll see a picture or a video of those tips, but it just renders the bass like really anemic, and the sound just ends up being way too hollow. We'll get into sound in a bit, but yeah, other than that, you've got some paperwork from HIFIMAN, and the box that it comes in is pretty nifty. It's pretty nice. Yeah, and so that's about it for build and accessories. What about comfort? Now, comfort is a bit of a mixed bag, a little hit and miss. For the most part, I would say it's pretty good. I was using these at the gym, of course, And I found that doing certain exercises cause them to sort of want to come out. They haven't fallen out yet, which is kind of cool. They've been on the cusp, on the verge of popping out. Like, say for instance, when I do ab crunches, when you're in like a compromised, weirder position at the gym, they will try to almost pop out. But I would say for the most part, you'll be fine. Doing like incline work, dumbbell work, or sometimes with bent over rows, they'll start to kind of try to not pop out, but you'll definitely have to push them back in. It's more of a minor inconvenience than anything. Yeah, at the Gime.
Gime? What's a Gime? Oh, a Gime.
I'm finding that the range on them is pretty decent. The other day I tested them. I think it was yesterday. I could walk the length of the floor, and they'll still be playing music, which is about, I don't know, guesstimating. I don't even know. But you get to the water fountain, and as long as you're facing towards your phone from across the room, they're fine. So as soon as I turn my back and bent down to take a sip of water, it's when it starts cutting out. So I noticed that when your back is turned to these, or when your back is turned to your phone, it does start to cut out. So all you gotta do basically is just do the moonwalk back towards the water fountain and fill your water bottle up backwards, and you should be fine. In my apartment, as I walked out of the room and left my phone, there's still music. There's still music playing, even with a wall impeding, so that's pretty cool. As soon as I start to walk outside, it's still good until I begin to walk towards my car, and then it starts to cut out. So even through a wall and my back towards it in the apartment outside, it did pretty well. I wouldn't say these meet the advertised range specs. Again, as long as I can walk the length of the floor of the gym and not have too many issues, that's fine. It's actually really good. But the other small issue I had with it cutting out, sometimes you'll just be sitting there and either the right side, normally it's the right side for me, will start to cut out intermittently for really no good reason as I'm waiting in between sets. I've noticed it's been creeping up a lot more lately. The only other thing is that the ear tips, and now Headphone.Guru talked about this as well, and I thought I was the only one until I read his review, or their review. One of their writers, I guess, was saying how the tips that come with the TWS 600s for him gave him some ear sensitivity, and I had the exact same issue. In fact, sometimes when I have these in, I'm tempted to rip them out and like start going like this, and that's kind of an issue. They kind of make my ears, inside of my ear canals, itch. You can go with the Comply tips. I'll put a link down below. A couple of people, including the guy over at Headphone Guru, said to go with those tips if you have sensitivities in your ear canal. But as far as the variety of tips, I would say that most anyone can find a pair in here that'll work for their ears. I mean, there's plenty to choose from. You've also got the Ugly Duckling clear one. I don't know why they decided to include one pair of clear ones, but that's neither here nor there. The itching problem doesn't happen all the time, so I would say good comfort. I mean, they're light enough to move around with fairly easily, and yeah. So how do they sound? Now this is where things get a little bit dicey. When you first put them in and fire them up, when you first put them in and fire them up, you're likely to be amazed. I mean, I was tempted to compare these to like a poor man's or budget Ananda, which isn't too far off until you start to listen with them more. Some problems start to arise. I would say this is definitely a mid-focused headphone, whereas most companies and most products in the consumer category tend to overemphasize the bass and treble while sacrificing the quality of the mid-range. Of course, that's what's known as V-shape. But these actually take the opposite approach as more of an A-shape. So mids around 2K are significantly forward, while the bass and the treble are more relaxed and subdued. Now, the bass and treble are both very good. Not as much thump as the Ananda, of course. The bass rolls off here a little bit more, but I find that there's a lot of nice texture, and the bass isn't getting in the way and making me annoyed. The treble, likewise, is it's not like sparkly or bright. It's fairly detailed, never sibilant, which is good. But the problem here is that the mid-range gets in the way of both. So it's hard to. There's so much I want to say here. I listened to these for quite a while. Demoed 4 albums yesterday, and then listened to countless songs driving as well as in the gym. So it just, when you're listening, it's like the vocals are pushed too far forward. Definitely, I found this to be true in the majority of cases. It just kind of not ruins, but it kind of gets in the way of the overall sound and spoils it a little bit. So you'll be, jamming out and want to turn the volume up, and then you turn the volume up a little bit, and it starts to get grating on your ears. Very shouty. Just imagine the HD600's mid-range issues magnified. So it makes the bass sound very anemic. So you'll be a track that should have more bass just doesn't provide it nearly enough. A prime example is Tycho's Pass's Prologue. Now, the intro to that song, I've heard the song 100 times, so I'm expecting a certain sound to it, especially when the drop comes in. But when the drop finally comes in and the bass line and vocals or instruments come in, like the synths, it's just too much, and it ends up rendering the bass almost lifeless. I mean, it's definitely concerning. The intro to the song has this mid-bass kind of rumble, and it lacked a little bit of weight, and it lacked a little bit of zest. Now, with the mid-range having a little bit too much zest. So overall, it's definitely an audiophile type of sound, but it's uneven. So if you want, you could probably EQ down 2K by around 3 dB, and it would probably be nearly a perfect Bluetooth earbud. Aside from that, looking at the package as a whole, I definitely would recommend these. There are sound issues, but the good thing about them is that, like, in a gym environment, the ambience, even though they're very good at isolating you, I mean, you basically hear nothing when these are in. Of course, they're not like noise canceling, but pretty close to it. I mean, if you have these in and music is playing and you like knock on something, you really can't hear it. So, but even with that said, at the gym, the ambience around you and all the different sounds and noises helps to mitigate those issues with the mid-range. So it actually makes this earbud sound fairly excellent in that type of environment with the right sort of music. So I listen to a lot of rap, hip-hop, indie pop, that sort of EDM kind of bass-heavier stuff. Works really well in that environment. But when I was demoing these yesterday with the albums that I listened to, it was just the issues became readily more apparent, I would say, because there's not that thin layer of syrup, as I mentioned in the article, to alleviate some of the harshness that will inevitably arise when you are listening. So kind of Jekyll and Hyde type of situation. I mean, looking at the overall package, I would say definitely recommend it I gave it a B, so my final grade would be a B, because there's a lot of things that it does right. I mean, the package that you get here is really good. Battery life is really good. They're very easy to use. I mean, you put them in the charging case, and as soon as you take them out and put them in your ear, they're ready to go with like no issues whatsoever. Of course, you had to pair them first in your phone, but I'm sure HIFIMAN will improve upon this in a separate iteration or a separate earbud altogether. So the only other thing to go over is when you're actually listening to them, those red and blue lights that remind me a lot of the Terminator. At first, I thought that those were like holes in the earbud. I was kind of taken aback by it, but they're actually buttons. So for music, when you're listening to music, press once on the left or right side to pause, double press on the left side to lower the volume, double press on the right side to raise the volume, triple press on the left side to go back a track, and triple press on the right side to fast forward a track. For calls, they are initiated with either the left or right earbud. Press once to accept an incoming call. Press and hold 2 seconds to reject. Press once to end the call. When you are talking on the phone and receive another incoming call, press once to end the first call and answer the new incoming call.
Yo, dog, I heard you like taking phone calls, so we stacked 2 phone calls on top of your existing phone call, making 3 extra phone calls, plus we're going to add in a 3rd or 4th phone call at no additional charge to you.
So yeah, I'll leave links down below to my article. Definitely go into more detail there. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review. Leave me some love down below and don't forget to subscribe. If you like what I do here and you want to support the channel, hit that Patreon link down below, and always remember, don't feed the troll. Yeah. Check. Review brought to you by Stu. Here's the coda. I'm nasty on the mic. Call me warm soda. Chopped up this beat real fine like cold produce. Steady in my veggies so I can focus on my David Copperfield. Y'all hocus pocus. A little loopy when I wrote this. Esoteric dopeness. Cultivating the will of a soldier. Fighting through the pain like Dooku. I told ya, sold you on my style. Snapping on cats like Private Pile. I get semi-wild every once in a while. 911 on the dial. Alone at the top with no rival. Dark is my world without a Bible. Without God's love there's no survival. So my mindset is tribal. Yeah, my mindset is tribal. Yeah, my mindset is tribal.